Hey everybody, it's Dan over at Thirdish. How we doing today? As promised, here I am. We're talking about triads, scales, and how to use them to improvise, especially if you're new to improvisation. There's a pretty big point of contention. If you ask like a bunch of jazz guys what improv is, you get a whole bunch of different answers. My personal opinion on it is if you were going to ask someone how to build a shed or something and they had to improvise or cook, what are they going to use? They're going to use what they have, right? That's improv, right? So using what you have. So if you practice the C major scale and the triads, you have everything you need to know to improvise today. This is what I have to show you. Okay, so we're going to review real quick what we went over, just real quick. So it's C major scale, right? Thumb under, right? Back down. If you can do that, you're in really good shape. And if you can't, you're still in pretty good shape, as long as you practice it, okay? So you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? Another way to think about it, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, if you remember that one, and C, back to the C. So that's kind of, if you think about it as like a palette, that's your color palette. Okay, each one of those is going to add a different spice or color to your song, right? And then the triads, same, right? If you think that triads are like, oh, I want to play some real music, I want to play some, triads have been the base of so many songs. It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? So some of the biggest songs in the world, by some of the biggest artists in the world, are all based on triads. So you probably remember something like this too, right? You know that. Come on. All triads, right? That's a fun one to play too. But today we're talking about improv, okay? So when you talk about piano and improving for like self-expression, let's say, it's cool to know what the different sounds and like how they relate to each other, you know what I mean? So if you keep that C major down on the left hand over here and play the other ones and just mess around with it, you can kind of hear how the reactions are. This is something you get used to over time, right? So a lot of it's based on noodling and just messing around, right? All C major, right? Just that scale. I'll try to keep it right in between the two C's. It's not about what I'm playing. It's about noodling and just kind of letting yourself play. Something that's going to help you with that too is phrasing. If you notice, I'm not just playing continually and just not breathing, right? If you think of it like a trumpet player or a French horn player, right? You have to take a breath. So that's something they got on pianists, is they actually have to stop and breathe. But mimicking that brings a lot of humanity to your playing, right? So like if you can just even pace it with yourself and your own breath. Helps a lot, okay? Another thing you can think of is moods, okay? I always think of minors not as sad, but like introspective. So if anyone else thinks that, when you think of something, if you see pictures kind of in your mind, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like cinematic, your thoughts. You know, I do that sometimes. But this kind of makes me think of, like, if I'm just describing this, it kind of makes me think of like someone walking with their head down thinking, right? They're thinking about something. They're not sure of it yet. It's not exactly sad. They're not sure. Got some curiosity, right? What's happening there? What if I do this? It's going to work out, right? Let's go back home, right? And that's the next thing I want to show you is the 5 of the chord is the dominant, okay? And it's called the dominant, or at least I think it's called the dominant for the reason that it always wants to tell you to go home, right? It's like your mom at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock when the lights go out, right? In the street. It's time to go home. That's another way to think about it. So if you're noodling, the way you would apply that, right? So like if let's say you're just noodling, no chords in the right hand, but you got chords in the left hand. You can play any of them, right? If you count, or better yet is like if you're trying to like improvise, and it's more of a emotional thing than anything else. Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, it kind of takes the emotions out of it and puts you into out of your own head and puts you into the realm. You know what I mean? So like another way to do that is to just kind of move your foot to it and count with your foot. Not necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4, but have the pace. Just messing around. And you go home, right? So it kind of, if you're playing and you're like noodling around, and let's say you do like a 4. To a 6. And you're like, man, I could go for a cup of coffee. How do I get out of this? It's just a vamp, right? There's no ending to it. Take you to that dominant 5. You can go get your coffee, you know, like, so when you're practicing, that kind of thing. Okay. The other thing you can do with just the triads and the scales, and this is just a few things, you can do a ton, okay, is apply a form. So like, let's say you're developing a melody. Like let's say you hear something. I have this conical mic, so I don't think it's picking it up, but the refrigerator just kicked on. That has a rhythm, okay? Thelonious Monk said he just plays what he hears, you know, and he was living in the city, so you got that bebop sound all over the place in New York City, still to this day. I'm not going to play the refrigerator, you know what I'm saying? But like, if you have a rhythm to, let's say, a delivery truck outside, or a rhythm of a bird's song, or a rhythm of a squirrel scratching on a bird feeder, or whatever it is you got out there, you can use that rhythm or the sound to create a form and kind of use that as a base for a melody. Even if it's very, very simple. You can have like, let's say you want to do an ABA form, which is just basically you have an A section, a B section, and then back to the A section. So really it's just 2 sections if you do an ABA. You have the idea, the development of the idea, and then back to the idea. So let's make something up here. Let's do let's just do let's base it off the triad. So let's say you take you take that C triad, right? And then maybe we take the 6, that A triad, but we play it backwards, right? Kind of feel that. Maybe you add, you play that one again, and maybe you play that 2 or the D, right? In this case, I guess it would be a 9 because it's up. You could call it either one. That's kind of nice, right? It's amazing how much you can get out of a small little idea. Okay, so let's say that's your A section. And then the B section is you would develop it, right? So let's say it's you're going to add maybe a little bit more to it, or you can leave some out. You're just going to develop the idea, whatever you want it to be. There's no rules. And then you have that closure. So that's a form, ABA. I like that form. You can do call and response, and that's kind of fun. I think of it more of, instead of knowing what the answer is going to be, like a call and response kind of a thing, or action reaction is another way to think about it. It's almost like a conversation. I grew up my family spoke French and English. So there were times I did not speak French. You know what I mean? So I didn't know exactly what they were saying all the time. So maybe that helps me a little bit, but like there's a rhythm to a conversation, okay? Whether you understand the language or not, you know? So that's what I'm talking about, more than like, speaking words, but like action, reaction, call and response. So it's like, let's say you're in a room and you don't quite understand what people are saying. That happens to me today, right? So you try to keep it to triads, right? Let's do it again and try to like get more into the conversation. I'm going to start on the 4. Interesting. I wonder what they were saying. But you can do that kind of stuff and just messing around. Again, this is just from the cuff. Something to get used to when you're doing this is you're not going to sound the way you want to sound. This isn't the way I want to play right now. But because I'm improvising with the C major scale and the triads, it shapes what I'm going to play, right? So it's I like the restrictions on ideas because it helps me think and it helps me develop ideas. So just know that, you might be playing stuff that, you might not want to end up playing like forever. You want to develop it more, so you might be a little self-conscious about it. Don't worry about it. Practice is not performance, as one of my one of my favorite jazz guys says, practice is not performance. If it sounds good, you're probably not practicing right, is another way to think about it. So just make peace with that. And yeah, it's easier to say than it is to do. But just get used to it is what I can say. And you get used to it by doing it. I know for me, having my little ones around, like when they were younger, really changed the way I felt about it, because it was either going to be, get used to it or not play. And that's basically how I got used to it, by force, right? So, pretty cool. If you have any questions at all, please drop a comment below. I hope you get some value out of this. And I hope that you can, get started on improvising on piano and just learning to play, freely. Remember that you have that one, right? To the 5 wants to go home, okay? Just that little bit is going to add a ton of structure to your playing, okay? Have a great day. See you in the next one.